Okay, you guys have been asking about part 4, or maybe it was part 5 of this. Well, you know, it was the holidays. Before that, it was being sick. No, it was the holidays and being sick. And then we had grandchildren here, and just a ton of stuff. So this just sat, as many things did. And now that the studio is clean, we're back to it, because we spent a week and a half cleaning the studio too. So now, I finished the sculpture yesterday, and there it is. And what I have to do next is break it off this. I forget how this is attached. Probably go look at the video, I'd see how. But yeah, and then I'm going to lay it on its back on a piece of foam, and I'm gonna lay up clay around the edge here. That's how we molded the original. It was done kind of right up here. And so the whole front of it was one piece, and the back was 2 other pieces, but I'm gonna have just one piece for the back, because this is not gonna be a mask, it's gonna be a resin bust, and a pretty good size one too. That was scary, but I got it sitting on its back, broke that away pretty easy, and yes, the video did really help tell me how I had that on there, and I did make it to be breakaway. So this is very much how we made a mold of the actual head. So being that this is foam, I'm worried about the stability of it when I lay up the wall, so I'm probably going to remove it again and put some clay underneath it instead so it doesn't move around. Okay, using one of these, which is a wire cutter, and 2 boards the same height, I'm going to slice some slices of this clay, and then using this knife, I'm going to cut some walls of clay. They don't have to be really precise. They just have to be able to go on here and curve all the way around and up and not fall off, which is going to be an interesting task, but I think I can do it. I've done it before. You can see how perfectly it slices it when you use the 2 boards. Keeps it all the same thickness. And then I take the knife and I slice up some sections like this. So it may not look like much, but it's got a heart of gold. What you're seeing that makes it look so nasty, not that it matters with a mold. Not to me. You can see a couple places I bumped into it. I've got some little things like that, which make me crazy. And there's nothing I can do about it to get it out of there. But take a brush to it. It's not going to matter, because once it's in silicone, I take it, make it out of resin. I can do anything to the resin. Correct problems, fix things, patch, all of that. This is really a hard one to do because it's clay against soft clay. But you see the edge is nice and smooth there. And this is nice and smooth. But this is a capture. A capture because I'm not doing a case mold. Could you imagine doing a case mold on this? So what we're going to do is we're going to brush this up. Yeah, I've taken the silicone and I've warmed it. Where is it? It's in here next to the captain's chair, which is near the heater. And when I touch this, it's better than room temperature. So that means it'll set up in 20 minutes. I'll have to brush this up for 20 minutes. And I may have to do another layer even. I'm not sure. But I'm going to tidy up this edge a little bit and add a couple of basic keys. And we're going to start slopping silicone. Okay, here we have 1,100 grams of silicone. It may not be enough. I may have to do another coat on it. I don't know, but I don't think so. I mean, it could be pretty thin and it's still pretty strong. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to start pouring it on. I can't do that and show you. But basically, I'm going to brush it all on, and then it'll set up. And it'll sit till tomorrow, and we'll do the fiberglass mother mold. Here we are. We've got the silicone fairly even all over. It's kind of thin, but this material is pretty strong. We're going to have a nice fiberglass jacket on this, which I'm going to make tomorrow, and you'll see how that's done. Because basically I'm going to lay fiberglass, epoxy, and glass over this, and that'll be the mother mold. It's much, much lighter than an ultra-cal or stone mold, so that's what's next. So that was part something. I'll figure it out when I get home. You can never do good work without a dog. Right, Rosie? Yeah, she says right. So yeah, so we got this, I've shredded it all up. This should be enough, I think. And I'm gonna mix up some 105 West Systems epoxy. This stuff is really the best epoxy I've ever worked with. And then the hardener, which looks old and dead, but it's still fine inside. Yeah, and I'm gonna layer that on, and I'll show what that looks like afterwards. I mean, basically, I'm just gonna coat this with some wet epoxy, and then I'm going to taking a brush, you know, and then taking the same brush, I'm just lay down some of this matte, and because it's very flexible and goes into corners and around things very well. So, and just soak it in, soak it up, and that's it. I walk away. Basically it'll set up in about an hour or two, but it won't be all the way crystallized and nice and stiff and hard till the next day. And that's when we'll remove all of this clay. We'll have a nice supporting mold for it, and then we're going to have fun laying up the backside, which is going to run down. And this is why, you know, a case mold would have been the way to go, and I just couldn't figure out how I was going to do it. It occurred to me later how I could have done it, and that is to have the seam line run down here, this way. Yeah, that's right, because you can just sand it off. You'll never see it. And I could have had a parting board and been able to drill into it and had a case mold and just filled it up. But I didn't. So this is going to work fine. I've done it before. Let's get going. Okay, so there we go. We got a nice coat of fiberglass on there and epoxy. And that will be the mother mold that will support it well. I'm trying to see if I have an example here to show you. And I think I do. And here it is. This is the laser blast mold. For my laser blast sculpture of me. And you can see here, there's the very thin silicone jacket, and there's the fiberglass underneath that supports it. You can see it's very thin, very, very lightweight, and I mean, this stuff's so strong. Even in the thin areas like right here at this very edge, you can't even flex it. So the epoxy is very, very strong, and that supports the shape of the silicone mold. And you can see it, silicone captures all the detail, and that's what keeps it all together. So I can pour it casting through the feet, and I get a laser blast figure. So now I'm just waiting for this stuff to set up, and so far, there's no sign of this setting up. There really isn't. And, but again, it's, well, that was the last batch I just mixed. It's 55 out here, which means in the night it got to be 40. So this resin's pretty cold, but you know, if I got it sitting here next to the heater, and this is a fast catalyst, and I should start to see it go off. If it doesn't go off, I have a big problem, but you know what? I have never, even with old batches of this stuff, ever had it fail to go off. So next step will be, of course, tomorrow to remove all this clay and everything, release Mac from the table, turn them upside down, and put a nice coat of silicone on the backside, and let that set up, and then more fiberglass on the back. So I obviously removed all the clay, turned it upside down. You can see this stuff's really hard, very, very hard material, the fiberglass. You can almost just fiberglass the back of it, and that would work, you know, because you can get glass and resins away from a fiberglass backing, because it's all smooth, and you just use some PVA and some wax, or wax then PVA, and yeah, then you get a nice smooth back that you can pop it away from. But I'm going to do the silicone jacket, and I filled in the hole, which was right here, just to make it easier and just to make it two-piece. Now there is an undercut, but this is silicone, so all I have to do is pull off the mother mold, which will flex a bit, and the rest is easy. So moving right along, I made a little quick styrene box to capture the arms for the glasses, and of course the glasses are in here. Yeah, I found this handy little plastic box. You can see that the material leaked underneath the silicone, which is already set off. It's warmer today. So yeah, so that is the glasses. Now these are, this is basically a waste mold. What I'm going to do is pour up a set of glasses and then sand the two-part resin, which will sand very easily compared to the 3D printed material. I'm getting the hiccups here. 3D printed material that is very difficult to sand, or can be, depending on what it is. And I think in the case of the stuff that Mark used, it would be. So this stuff sands beautifully. I can get it all smooth and nice, and then I can put it on the vacuum form. Or maybe it'll be on this vacuum form over here, which is, I love this. Thank you, Colby. If you are watching, you were so kind to give me this machine. My God, used to make some props for Battlestar Galactica. I have that one on the brain, and that's because I just got the model kit to build, which we'll be doing for Star Trek: The Next Generation. Now, here you see a very messy looking thing, but you know what? It's music to music. It's gold to my eyes because it's set up. And what I did to get it set up really fast, the other day, I was waiting a very long time. You can see how it's really setting up quite well. For the first side to set up, it was cold. The silicone was probably around 64 degrees or so, and it was hitting cold clay, and I was splashing that stuff up forever. So I got smart today. I weighed up my material, and I stuck it in this wonderful oven that Paul Gentry gave me. In fact, he gave me that one and this one, both. And they're convection ovens, and they're really good for curing things and drying things out. So I put it in there, got it up to about 80-something degrees, over catalyzed it just a bit. You can see that this is much bluer. This is the correct amount you're supposed to use. And that made it kick off in 30 minutes in this cold. So you can see, if you were wondering how am I get the silicone not to stick to the other silicone, you can see that just got a thin coating of Vaseline on there, and that just comes right off. Yeah, look at that. So we'll leave that alone for now. What these are old pieces of mold, and what I did is I cut them off and strips wise. These will be cut a little bit more with a razor blade, X-Acto knife, whatever, later. And but I'm going to leave these edges pretty sharp, because this way it will pop into the fiberglass mold, because this side will definitely want to pull away from the fiberglass mother mold. It will. All this stuff's going to get cut off down the side here and everything, but after I do the fiberglass over it. So, and then basically clamps will go like this, hold the mold together, you know, just clamps. It's not real hard to do. I may end up doing this out of 1630 because I can lay up one side and lay up the other side. Sets up in 15 minutes, but you have work time to get it even thickness. And that's how I made, well, his head up there out of a very similar silicone mold. My molds are ugly, but my final product is pretty good. This was entirely made from the silicone sloshed up mold with the fiberglass mother mold, and this is made out of 1630. And this is, I'll take off the top of his head, which this is actually screen accurate. Maybe I won't right now. They did have it cut that way to get inside to work on the eyes to make them move. And this is all 1630, which is a two-part polyurethane that is like the other resins that you work with, that you pour in a mold and it hardens up and you pop it out. This, with the 1630, it's got filler in it. It also has a longer working time, 15 minutes, so you're able to cast up stuff half and half and then close the mold and put some more in it, it connects it together. So basically that's it. I'm walking around in circles. Rosie's having a nice scratch on a nice bed. And tomorrow I'm going to come in here and do the fiberglass, and that will complete this part, which describes how I make, or shows how I make the mold. So it's hard not to want to pick this stuff off. But yeah. So tomorrow, more fiberglass. Monday we open the mold, and that will start another part. And that will show how we cast one up. And I am going to try to do it out of the 2-part 808, TC 808, which is right here. And I got a brand new 2-gallon kit. This is the one I'm still working on. And this stuff is fabulous, but I may have a problem sloshing it around in there and getting one out. I'll get something out, enough that I'll be able to paint one up and stuff and get it for myself. I babbled on too long. See you tomorrow. Okay, so here it is the next day, and this stuff's all set up, and I want to take this apart and open it up. You know, if I ever have to lose a hand after shooting video with one hand all these years, you know, I'll be able to do it. It really helps to have both hands, but we're gonna, let's see if I can do this live at SNG Studio. Okay. I can't. So, hey, here's what we do. We're going to do this. We're going to set this back like that. I'm going to hold this up. Hopefully, you can see that. I think you can, at least for now. Ow. Stuff sharp. And pull that out like that. We don't need that anymore. You can see how well it's set up. I way over catalyzed this stuff. These molds aren't going to last very long. You can speed up the process by using fast catalyst, or you can use more of the blue catalyst that's slower. So slow that sometimes, if it's not warm weather, it will take 2 hours before it gels enough. And if you're sloshing a mold, it's pretty bad. So you see the parts right there, all clean and nice, and we got a nice mold. Now, we got this one to open up. Let's see if I can do that with one hand. Probably not. So what I'm going to do, there I am. Okay, so this will probably work better. Yeah. Now I CA the butt to the bottom of this, so I'm hoping it pops loose. But it did, rather well, which is nice because I can reuse this for something else. Okay, so I'm gonna open this up, and I did go leak around the back. That's not a problem. Now, there we go. I'll just pop that out, no problem. There's the form, and there's the mold. And the mold looks really, really good. So, that came out very well. It'll get trimmed later, and that's that part. Next up is let's put fiberglass on this. And of course, I forgot to stop at West Marine and pick up some more West Systems hardener. So I may not have enough. I'm hoping I do, because if I have to stop and leave the studio and go get some, it's going to be a bit of a drive and a lot of hassle, and I probably won't finish this today. So keep your fingers crossed for me. I'm going to attempt, without getting stuff on my iPhone, to show you how some of this is done. You're probably wondering, because I didn't show you last time. So doing stuff with that one hand again, I'm taking the resin down here, which is West Systems epoxy. It's 2-part. You mix. It's a 1:5 ratio. This is 180 grams of material. Okay, dogs, and I'm not going to stop because somebody looked in the door. I want to show you this. So you're gonna survive the dogs barking. Rosie, I think we got it. We'll, look in here and think, what the heck are these people doing? We got airplanes, rockets, weird stuff here, a sports car, and barking dogs, which is a great way to get people to move along. Move along. These aren't the droids you're looking for. Yeah, I saw that movie too. Okay, so here we go. You can see how I'm just putting on the fiberglass, and it takes a while, especially when it's cold and this stuff's so thick, for it to soak into the fiberglass. Usually I put a layer underneath, which I didn't do as much of this time. Helps it stick down there, that's better. And then I soak it up. Soak it up, soak it up. Filmed, and you know, we're both very busy. So we're back to the old handheld iPhone. In the old days, some of you will remember, I had just this was a HD handheld camera. I still have it somewhere, and it wasn't a phone. It was just because the phones really didn't have that good of cameras back then, back in 2012, 2010. I was doing the Enterprise, but so I would hand hold and do this, and those cameras are covered in all kinds of resin and things, but I'm hoping you're getting an idea of how I work with the resin, and I need smaller sections. So that gives you an idea. And eventually I'll have this whole thing covered, and this will sit till Monday, and we'll open it. And there we are. It took 1 solid week to make this mold. Yeah, I thought I'd show you this. Now, this is the 3D printed buck that Mark Helmick made for me. You can see all the ripples and lines in it. So, after, of course, I cast this out of the resin, look at it now. It took me a minute to sand these parts down and get them smooth. So I'll be able to make a few of these and then put them on the vacuum form. So that worked out very successfully. And thank you, Mark Helmick. I know you're watching. And man, beautiful work. I could not have done this without you. This is so great. And if I had, I would have had to spend a long time doing it. So 3D printing, yeah, it really comes in handy, especially stuff like this. You know that how much work goes into making a little Mactonite sculpture. I mean, I get a lot of comments sometimes about, God, that's so much money. Why does it cost so much? You know, because you're used to buying things that some sculptor here does, and then the big company with lots of money sends it to China, they mold it, they make all the stuff and send it back, and then they can sell it for $100. And with some mass, $40 and $50. But they're not made by me, and you didn't get to see how it was made and all the work that goes into it. And we're not done yet, because this mold has to be, this mold has to be opened still, cleaned out, and prepped, and all this excess cut off and everything, and all ready so they can have clamps put on it. And then we're going to put resin in it, and get the resin out, the piece, and then sand that and fill it and prep it, and paint it, and do all that. So don't be surprised at the sticker shock when it comes. But you're going to get my signature on it, the creator, or at least the guy who made the mask and puppeteered it, and my dear friend Doug Jones' signature on the same plaque, who played the character. We'll see you Monday for opening the mold.